Alright, here we go. Welcome back to Metal Heroes Review, episode 140. We're here discussing the last two episodes of Special Investigator Robo Janperson. Yep, we're at the end of this. So here we go. We start off with Gun Gibson, basically finding out that Kara is alive. How? Kara dug up her body. And pretty much brought her back to life. And of course, basically, and then he sees her, and then they go on a little like cat mouse chase, which he says to with her, calling her like a tomboy, and then she's like the actual Carol, and it turns out Carol did not really betray them. It was all a cover for the actual reason what the heck is really going on. So then, of course, Bill Goldie shows up. They have a fight with, of course, Janperson, obviously, and Gun Gibson. By the end of the episode, we see the apparent death of Gun Gibson. Kara was definitely dead because they kill her off again after they just brought her back last episode. So Gun Gibson takes her AI chip, which apparently gets passed off to Janperson, and then it's unveiled what exactly is the final plan. Is it cause chaos? Well, yes, in a different way. So Tatsuwaki, his plan is to use the hypercellular waves to go from kids to adults on a massive scale across the whole world to do one thing: global coup d'etat, and have him as the Demon King. Now you're probably thinking, that sounds like a plot from Live Man. Because it kind of does, with the whole brainwave stuff and the fact that it's actually enacted in the last episode, very briefly before it cuts off. This one came out in '93. I guess someone from Toei must have really liked that whole idea of the brainwave. That simple idea of a brainwave, brainwash the whole world. And let's do the same thing here. So it's like, I'll get to my final thoughts about these episodes. So yeah, and of course play the chip in, and the fact that apparently Junko knew about this all along, basically trying to get her involved, which she does. Also reveals that Junko was not an idiot. I thought she was, because it looked like she was. It turns out the reason why she leave the car, because that was not Junko. Because it pulled the same card from Kaoru's debut appearance. From her first episodes. Let's have her fake her death with a robot double. I'm sure that was what they wanted to do anyways, but at least they waited a while to use this idea again. A robot double. And she's off someplace. Don't know where she is, but she's out of the story. Yeah, her purpose was to bring the whole idea in this, and then basically write her out after just a couple episodes. You're like, okay. So then of course they go to Billy Goldie's headquarters, which by the way, they do not go to his office. Which they do that for George and Renju, but not this I thought was really weird. Because if they're to, why couldn't it for him? Hey, of course, and it shows, and apparently Janperson knows who he is. I'm guessing that the name was probably passed off to him during that message. Because you're him. I'm like, you've been fighting this guy since episode 3. And now you know this man's name. You see him transform, and of course have him train up, and and of course Rick Talk is knocked away off screen, knocked away, and then of course basically during the first part of the episode, it looks like Janperson does in fact virtually die. Also, the last episode, one thing I can tell, it's the only episode to show the title, because the rest clearly did not. Yeah. Don't know what the reason for that is, but that's basically what happened there. So Bill Goldie is like, Janperson's dead, Gun Gibson's gone, Kairu basically is doing whatever. I'm gonna go basically celebrate my victory. Put on my nice white tuxedo. Let's have the two failures of a henchwoman, Mindy and Cindy, put on these nice outfits. They get in the car, and then Janperson coming back to life, somehow after being shot 20 times. And then he uses Kairu to turn her back into the prototype, but the target being Billy Gold. And it kind of works. And also, for the first time since I think before episode 20 that he's done this, he puts on the jumpsuit. Because it's the final episode, we're trying to replay the events of the first episode a little bit, with him take off the jumpsuit, put in the visor on, which he's had the visor on for a long time, and and I was like, target Billy Goldie for obliviation, and he's like, that is like Janperson I know, and he's so focused on him. Of course, basically, it's programmed to cancel the brainwave, which eventually Kairu does. And the Biozoid, and it also create more Bioborgs, which Gun Gibson, who's alive and well, this time being damaged, he was able to tie them up no problem. And they ended the brainwave thing, which that was quick. That was only enacted for maybe 10 minutes? Would you say it was longer than it was in Live Man? It was actually shorter than Live Man. Yes. So, then you have Gun Gibson fight the two henchmen, and you have just Janperson clearly focused on Billy Goldie, and it becomes a massive brawl. Well, it looks like they go back to the room they were before in the previous episode. They knock up a railing, they fight in there, knock through a wall, go to another room. Eventually, they end up outside where it's raining, and Gun Gibson eventually limits the air too, no problem. At the one who trusts off his arm, he basically takes part of her sword and stabs her in the neck. I'm like, damn! And that's a human! Yes, he kills a human. So, then he tries to take Kairu hostage, and then eventually, somehow, someway, Bill Goldie gets stabbed by Janperson. His hair turns white, and then he says, I'll be back. Quoting Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then he blows up. You're like, what? Yeah, he blows up. And apparently with the mind wave over, they have barbecue to celebrate, they go to a amusement park, and the show just ends there. I'm like, okay. I gotta say, for an ending for a Metal Hero series, that was a bit anticlimactic. Like, oh, he gets stabbed after that long, grueling battle and just blows up. Doesn't fall over, he just blows up. Okay. I'd say this is a bit anticlimactic, but this actually was a really good two-parter. A really good 4 episodes. Yeah, these are parts 3 and 4. So, this arc, these last 2 episodes, I actually found these episodes to be of the final, to get rid of these groups to end the show. I gotta say, this was the best bunch. Oh yeah. Because this guy has been there since the start. But, yeah. As for a villain himself, he was actually quite interesting. Though early on, he had this thing where he wore his red silk shirt, like lollipops. He was kind of crazy, jumping all over the place. Eventually, when he became Bill Goldie, he stopped doing that. Eventually, by episode 38, basically about, I would say, for the last 10 episodes or so, at some point, I think it was after he became Billy Gold, he stopped wearing the red silk shirt he was wearing since his debut appearance. Yeah, he stopped wearing it for some reason when he's not Billy Gold. He goes back to wear a normal suit. I'm guessing that he was probably getting tired of wearing the damn thing or something. I don't know. But Yeah, that was kind of weird. In story, he's wearing a suit now. Okay. Yeah, it's all those traits they had him early on. Yeah, they pretty much dropped those once he became Billy Gold. He's not over the top like he was at the start. The other two were pretty much most of the same from start to finish. At least he actually evolved. And it was interesting. Of the three, it seemed as though George didn't transform into anything like Tatawaki and Ringo did. Also, here's a fun fact with the actor who played Billy Gold, the one who went in human form. This actor was in Kamen Rider as Zed Cross. Kamen Rider Zed Cross, the 10th ever Kamen Rider. Which he would reprise the role for Showa Rider versus Henshin Rider. Probably for the movie's specials like 40th anniversary. Actually, it was 30 years. Yeah, 30 years. But now on to my final thoughts on Janperson. This was a very interesting show. Let's get the dislikes of the way first. Number one, it seems as though for when it comes to supporting characters, the show didn't know what to do because we had two cops and a reporter at the start, and then after about 13-ish episodes, all of these characters were dropped, and then just Janperson plus a few other random characters for a few episodes, and then we introduce it becomes much more focused once we had the female scientist Kairu show up and showing her off her brother. Show becomes much more tightly focused, and I think that was the first step of a change in this series. Also, introducing Gunn Gibson was a good idea because he was a great character. Kind of weird that even made his debut in 21. He wasn't necessarily in 33 episodes. He actually was 2. He missed 23 and I think it was like 25. After that, he stopped missing episodes. Yeah, I thought it was a little weird. I'm guessing probably the reason why he wasn't 23 because it wasn't George Maccabee. And it is my honest opinion that 24 probably was supposed to be 23 because that picks up like not long after the events of episode 22. Because that's what it feels like. It feels as though like we're in like a series of like stuff happening here throughout these episodes. I'd say for Gunn Gibson, like he was good taking care of stuff from obviously Neo Guild and Bill Goldie. Super Science Network, I don't think he knew what to do with those stuff because he wasn't in a lot of their episodes. I'm guessing once he showed up, they probably decided to just slowly phase it out and then stop for a while and then kind of bring it back-ish to eventually written out of the series. I mean, do I think the Super Saiyan Network is probably the reason? Do I think he was the reason why they kind of didn't have to as much? Yes, I do believe they were. And plus, they, tone-wise, just didn't fit with the series. No, Neo Guild definitely did. I said Bill Goldie definitely did. But the Super Science Network? No. I kind of feel as though, like a lot of the time, this one has some interesting ideas. I kind of feel as though they were like completely like the tone wise just didn't. I think they just didn't fit. Also, forgot to mention when it comes to the last couple episodes featuring Neo Guild, one of the robots were masked one of the chaps from RX. Second time appears in the show. Awesome. But I also thought the format of the show was kind of weird, where it's like we start with the Guild for the first 2 episodes, and then Takawaki for episodes 3 and 4, and then it's either Neo Guild, Super Science Network, and of course they went back and forth. Sometimes they even went reverse, and it was like a rotating faction for like a lot of these episodes. And they only interacted maybe once the entire show. Though my personal opinion of the reason why we have three factions, because the previous 2 shows didn't have factions. They just want to look who the villains are. They're just a lot of just one-shot characters. Yeah. But otherwise, though, I actually kind of enjoyed Janperson. That was a really fun show. I'd say that the best written episodes, in my honest opinion, were the episodes that featured Neo Guild and Bill Goldie's faction. Yes, I thought kind of so. The Super Science Network, I thought those episodes were kind of weird. I did enjoy their second appearance, which no denying basically the actor played Junior for the show. He had a lot of fun playing this character, but it seemed like half the time it just wasn't as good as the other episode. That's what's kind of feelings about that. Mm-hmm. At least the cast is pretty willing to play the leader. Yep. Even she was 39 to now she's like 71, but at the time she was 39. She looked really good for her age. Yep. But next up basically is going to be Kamen Rider 01, work on that, and then I'll do... The plan is basically just do... I'm going to do 3 series now. 15, well, in Blue SWAT, third one's going to be just 16. So the first is going to be 01 first, 15 episodes, put pause there. Then go to Kira Major, first 15 episodes, pause there. And then go to Blue SWAT, do 60 episodes, pause there. And then I go back to the 01. I'll go to the point where I can take a break. I'll do the same thing with Kira Major, and I'll do the same thing with Blue SWAT. That's the plan. Yep. So, that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe to notifications. Next up is Kamen Rider. Okay, next video. Bye.